Before we start Chapter 32, we wanted to quickly let some of you folks out there know who don't already. If you have been listening to this podcast for a while, you probably do already know. But Watt Spoilers has started a modest meetup on the West Coast that happens in Portland now every year. This year coming will be our second year doing the official SpoilerCon. And we would encourage you to visit our website if you're interested or nearby or just want to check it out at www.spoilercon.org. Please check us out, and if you're interested to come to our little meetup, there's like a bunch of events planned, and our roof mistress here at Watt Spoilers has worked for quite a while now. She set up the first one, now she's setting up the second one. She's a real event planner. And be glad we're not doing it, because we'd be like, I don't know, let's just show up and have a drink at a bar or something, which was originally what we were going to do for the meetup, but it turned into a lot more than that.
And she set it up all within about a month, and it was a mildly big, successful event with very little notice. And this one has been in planning for months now, and we'll be in planning for a full year by the time we get to it. So at this point, hotel is announced that we're staying in. The prices are announced, and you can find all of that at spoilercon.org.
Can we throw the date out there very quickly? I can't remember the exact day we...
I'm gonna go to the website.
September-ish. Yeah, I'm going to our own website to inform you what's happening.
And say it is September 27th through the 29th, 2019. Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
And if you click the little hamburger icon...
Hamburger...
It's got the three... What else do you call that thing?
I'm not making fun of you. I know what you mean. The triple line.
Yeah.
Where you go to About or Contact on like all websites. All right, Travis, that makes sense. Not a hamburger, but a panini. It's a little flatter. I suppose that's understandable.
Okay. So the hotel room has not been decided yet, but will be by the time this comes out.
But if you RSVP or Roof Mistress, are we asking for RSVPs right now?
Please let us know if you intend on coming. It doesn't have to be a hard commitment, I think, at this point. But I mean, you can buy tickets and register.
But yes, if you are interested, RSVP as soon as possible, and there will be accommodations and stuff is set up.
And you can RSVP on the website. And I just want to announce that it's gotten some attention from Sarah down in LA who's working on the TV show, and she says she intends on coming.
What?
I can't guarantee it, but
she'll do whatever she wants. Although
right.
We would encourage you, Sarah, if and when you listen to this episode. I think she's either caught up or she just started listening to the recent episodes, because she messaged us about some of them.
This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Hi, I'm Seth.
And I'm Patrick. Starting up here, Chapter 32 of The Shadow Rising. Questions to be asked. For a second I thought I was doing the wrong one, but I'm not. And our symbol is the dragon's fang. We should leave for Watch Hill soon, Perrin announced the next morning, with sunrise just purling in the sky outside, so don't dawdle. Perrin looked up from his cold porridge to meet a steady gaze. The Aes Sedai expected no arguments. After a moment, she added thoughtfully, "Do not think this means I will aid you if you try any foolishness. You are a tricksome young man. Try none of it with me." Tam and Abell paused with spoons halfway to their mouths, exchanging surprised looks. Clearly they had gone their own way and the Aes Sedai theirs before this. After a moment, they resumed eating, although with pensive frowns. They left any objections unvoiced. Did we agree on Tomas for Perrin's warder?
Yes.
Okay. Tomas, his warder's cloak already packed away in his saddlebags, gave them, and Perrin, a hard-faced stare anyway, as if he anticipated arguments and meant to stamp them out. Warders did whatever was necessary for an Aes Sedai to do what she wanted. She intended to meddle, of course. Aes Sedai always did. But having her where he could see her was surely better than leaving her behind his back. Avoiding Aes Sedai entanglements completely was all but impossible when they meant to dabble their fingers in. The only course was to try to use them while they used you, to watch and hope you could jump clear if they decided to stuff you head first, like a ferret, down a rabbit hole. Sometimes the rabbit hole turned out to be a badger's set, which was hard on a ferret. You would be welcome, too, he told Alana, but she gave him a frosty stare that stopped him in his tracks. She had disdained the porridge, and stood at one of the vine-shrouded windows, peering through the leafy screen. He could not say whether she was pleased with his plans for a scout. Reading her seemed near impossible. Aes Sedai were supposed to be cool serenity itself, and she was that, but Alana tossed off flashes of fiery temper or unpredictable humor when least expected, like heat lightning, crackling, then gone. Sometimes she looked at him, so that if she had not been Aes Sedai, he would have thought she was admiring him. Other times, he might as well have been some complicated mechanism she meant to disassemble in order to puzzle out how it worked. Even Perrin had the better of that. Most of the time, she was just plain unreadable, unnerving on occasion, but at least he did not have to wonder if she was going to know how to fit his pieces back together. This is a fun little insight to Alana.
Yeah, well, and don't forget, she's still getting over the death of her warder, so some of her odd mood swings and temper flashes may be related to that.
Yeah, that's a good insight, too. I hadn't even really considered that, but...
I mean, we know she's definitely not the most stable emotionally person.
As Aes Sedai go, definitely.
As Aes Sedai go, she definitely has a temper, I mean, she's not, but, she's in a particularly vulnerable spot right now due to her warder, and it's a magically induced mourning caused by the bond.
Yeah.
Because her warder took a couple of arrows to the chest. Couple of questions. Perrin calls Perrin a tricksome young man. And I was like, as far as she knows, Perrin has been like the good boy of the group. If it was Matt, I would get you. But like Perrin, really?
I don't know what that is. I don't understand really what's happening there. Perrin starts
I wanted to ask.
Telling them what to do, essentially, and then don't try any foolishness. You're a tricksome young man. Try none of it with me.
It's like she's trying to take control of the party. She's saying, we're going to Watch Hill.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's trying to convince Perrin to leave the Two Rivers.
Yeah, why?
Not sure. That's what I was. That's what the only reason I can think of to head to Watch Hill.
Oh well, they're going to. The original intent is to go to Scout, or what it was agreed on before.
Oh, did we? They already did that, where they agreed to free the girls from the Whitecloaks.
I believe so.
Okay, I got my timeline just a little mixed up. I thought that happened later. Yeah, so I guess they're heading to Watch Hill to free the girls.
And Discord is pointing out, so I should probably point out, Perrin is capable of lying. So I don't know what her intent is here, but I think she wants Perrin to start moving and do something. But I don't know what this tricksome thing is about. And even Tam and Abell are like, what just happened?
Yeah, that's, the tricksome thing, it caught me off guard, and I couldn't think of why she would believe that. I like Grebo here says, she sees deeper than most and knows that of all the boys, Perrin is harder to control than most. And that's true. I mean, he's very stubborn. He goes his own way. He doesn't want to go her way. So that might be all she means.
Yeah. Ferengi says Perrin is resistant, which Perrin might find vexing.
And then there was this, I wonder if this sentence here had any relevance to easing the badger, where he talks about hope you could jump clear if they decided you stuff you head first like a ferret down a rabbit hole. Sometimes the rabbit hole turned out to be a badger's set, which was hard on the ferret. And so I have to wonder if maybe easing the badger has something to do with like stuffing a ferret down a badger's hole.
Well, I don't know. Maybe.
Let's just say the term stuffing a ferret down a badger's hole sounds dirty. Just like easing the badger. The next thing I have is the conversation between Perrin and Fael being like, my father raises sheep. We're in that point where she just keeps lying.
Perrin's like, I thought he was a merchant. She's like, he raises sheep too.
Yeah, he does both.
All right.
And he's like trying to come up like, oh, she must be lying because her father's this poor dude, and she doesn't want to admit that he's like not doing well, so she makes up all these different things that he does. Not the fact that he's like a lord and does them all.
Right. Perrin wants to discourage Fael from going, obviously, but decides to use Master Cawthon's method, I'm quoting. And he just says, well, there's not much to see, although I suppose it's nice that you want to see the countryside where I grew up. There really isn't very much to look at other than the sheep being sheared.
Yeah, so come on along.
Yeah.
And I actually feel that works, because there's a couple of times later when he's like taking command and he like expects her to pipe up and she just shuts up. I think it's partially because he's doing what she wants him to do, which is take command of the people. But it's also because here, I think the advice worked. Give in to her demands a little bit when it's not important, and then when you're taking charge and going, she'll be quiet and stick with you. I think he sees that effect working, is what Jordan's trying to show here.
Yeah, the give and take in any relationship. Sometimes It isn't worth it. Loyal wants to go, and they're like, nah, you will attract way too much attention.
Big Ogier? Yeah, I can't imagine why.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the way Perrin does this, like, I need you to keep an eye on Alana. Yeah, that's it. Like, looking around.
Do you think he's just making it up? I suppose it's mildly useful to know what she's up to, but it's more of...
Yeah, I really do think it's a reason just to keep him behind. Because he's
For
like,
you,
really wants
we have
to
a
go.
very important task.
Right after that conversation, Varen and Lana just like share an unreadable look and then both look at Perrin. They were listening to that whole conversation. Perrin's sitting there being like, all right, I need you to keep an eye on Alana. And Alana's like right next to him.
Probably.
He's like, I don't know what she's going to do. She's like, right. She's just saying that whole thing right in front of him. Which is why his ears are all like twitching and nervous. Because he's like, oh my God, don't say that in front of the Aes Sedai. Let them do what they want.
Oh, I thought that might have partly have to done with, so there's an Ogier here, which is notable by itself, but also they share an unreadable look right after Loyal says, I suppose I would draw eyes at that. Well, it will give me a chance to work on my notes. I have done nothing on my book in days. Varen and Alana shared an unreadable look, then turned twin unblinking eyes on Perrin. I think it may just be because they're fascinated by, they know that he's a Ta'veren. And through the next couple of chapters, Varen is like following Perrin around, essentially just watching what he does. And, he's like, you guys better get off this farm. You got to get into Emonds Field, and like you can protect each other better if there's a large group of you all together. And suddenly at first they're like, well, we can't just leave our farms. This is our livelihood, this and that. But they're all swayed one by one. And each time Varen's like, interesting. And she makes notes.
Yeah, but that hasn't happened yet.
No. But the point I'm making is that they're watching.
Right. Oh yeah, totally.
The more I think about it, and the more as I was reading these chapters, the more I just feel inclined to think that Varen somehow knew that the Two Rivers was going to be more important than just finding these young girl channelers. Somehow.
Varen knows.
Yeah. What's
the prophecy about the King of the Wolves and his hammer? Does anyone have that on hand?
I know what you mean, but I can't remember the wording of it. Let me see if I can look it up really quick, or see if Discord does it for me.
When the Wolf King carries the hammer, thus are the final days known.
That sounds right. And I did notice in just a moment here, when Perrin's packing up his things, Varen looks right at the hammer across his saddle.
And that's what I was thinking, is that maybe she has figured out that he's the Wolf King, and so... I don't know if she knew that he was coming back to the Two Rivers, but she definitely, once she saw him, was definitely watching for signs that when she sees him carrying a hammer, right? Like, she knows that prophecy. She's the person who quotes that piece of the prophecy for us later.
Varen was watching him with a knowing expression, not vague at all, as if she knew what he was thinking, amused. It was bad enough when Fael did that sort of thing. From an Aes Sedai, it was 100 times worse. The hammer lashed with his blanket roll and his saddlebag seemed to puzzle her, though. He was glad there was something she did not seem to understand. I don't think she's puzzled. I think she's musing. The wheels are turning.
Yeah. She may not have fully figured it out yet.
She's like, what was that thing about the Wolf King and a hammer? think I remember that from somewhere.
Wolf King, Wolf Eyes, yeah. Can't, Viren.
Couple of paragraphs down, Perrin's wondering if Varen knows about the wolves. I don't know if you've got anything on that. Could Varen know? I mean, Varen often knows, but
about the wolves, I think, yeah. I'm pretty sure we figured out that
Moraine knows.
I mean, she was with Perrin for a long time after his eyes turned golden.
In the camp, and yeah, quite a long time. And now together again, somehow, in a rising Manetherin.
Travis, real-time follow-up, is correcting us on the prophecy. It wasn't Varen who quoted it. It was General Ty Lee of the Shan army.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Trevmodian. But isn't there a point where... what Kelsey just put there?
This is a prophecy of the shadow, and this is the one I think Varen knows.
The last days of the fallen blacksmith's pride shall come. Yea, and the broken wolf, the one whom death has known, shall fall and be consumed by the midnight towers, and his destruction shall bring fear and sorrow to the hearts of men, and shall shake their very will itself. What? Yea, and the broken wolf, the one whom death has known. Who's the broken wolf? Hopper?
Yes, Hopper.
Shall fall and be consumed by the midnight towers, and his destruction shall bring fear and sorrow to the hearts of men.
And that's in the book, The Towers of Midnight, so, I mean, that's...
Yeah, I should say I'm speculating it being Hopper. I don't know that, but I'm guessing. Who else would the broken wolf be? Oh.
Elias?
No,
I don't think he's broken.
Boundless. What about Boundless?
I thought about Boundless, but he is not the one death has known. Boundless is still alive, both in the real world and in...
Does he survive the last battle?
Yeah.
Oh.
So the broken wolf, the one whom death has known, I mean, Hopper has died, but is still, and is broken and in the wolf dream.
Is it crazy to think maybe Slayer, the broken wolf?
That is not crazy, because we do know that, you know, there's a prophecy about Luke and Esam that one shall live and one shall die. So, you know, we know at some point in the combining of their souls, one of them died.
And it's kind of dead
death
and
has
alive.
Known, yeah, he's both dead and alive. So, that's actually really good speculation.
That'll be a fun one to come back to at some point. I'm reading this other thing that Kelsey posted.
Right. And Slayer is the antithesis of the wolf, hence the term like broken wolf. But it could also refer to Perrin. But I honestly do think, yea, the broken wolf, the one who death shall know, shall befall and consumed by the midnight towers. Oh, shit, I know who the broken wolf is. It's none of those. It's Noel.
Are the midnight towers the towers of Genji?
Yeah.
Or the Tower of Genji?
Yeah. And he's broken with his hands. Death is known. He works with Morden and Ishmael. Totally. The broken wolf. Yeah. And I know he's referred to as, I think he was referred to as an old wolf. Yeah, totally no. I remember that theory.
I dig it. After what could be so fascinating to an Aes Sedai about a hammer. I think because that's what spiraled us off there.
Right. That is.
The men rise. The men start moving. So Varen, Tomas, Perrin, Tam, Abell, Fail, and the Fail all travel for quite some time.
Yeah, basically you have the good fighters of the group, the professionals.
Yeah, and as they're more than partway there, Tam said, "There's a place we can stop, like kind of midway here. It's our friend's farm, Jack Alcine. Am I getting that right?"
Yeah, Alcine. Because then this is where Will Alcine comes in, the other pretty boy, besides Aram.
He said, we'll stop at Jack Alcine's farm, see how they're doing,
totally.
And we can rest there for a minute. They won't say anything about us, but when they do get there, they're like, maybe the Aiel. They see you guys, even the people with the best intent would let something slip, but if they just see us, it's not too remarkable. They know who we are, and they want to protect us.
And this is where he starts to build up his army and bring them out. And there's that whole scene where they all try and like surprise each other by like having don't tell each other about the Aiel and have them pop out.
Oh,
folks, as they recruit each new group because they scared the first group and they want everyone to have that experience.
But Perrin doesn't allow it. before they get there, there's some kind of open speculation as they're riding. This is kind of one of the only important things that I had as they're moving along about the trollocs and how many there are. And Perrin points out, Tam estimates there's at least 200, probably more, he essentially says. And Perrin says if 200 or 300 came in the night to Emonds Field, they could burn the whole village before any Whitecloaks got there. Why aren't they?
Yeah, and they sort of talk about the whole defense setup right now, which is like everyone's got a bow, the Whitecloaks are roaming around, there's boys up on the hood, the roof, and Perrin's like, so that's not enough.
Right. That's great that you have 30 seconds warning on a horde of trollocs coming down on a dozen farmers with pitchforks and bows, but you're all going to die.
Yeah,
if that's all you got.
If they wanted to kill you, they would have. And so then there's the question. They could have killed all these farmers. They could have swarmed the two rivers. Why? In Emonds Field. Why haven't they? There's clearly enough. They could do some major damage. And the answer is, of course, they're bait.
Right. They're trying to make noise and attract attention. Whoever's controlling the trollocs is trying to make noise and attract attention so that Rand will come, in theory.
And the Whitecloaks are trying to keep people from hearing about the Whitecloaks in the area, but Fane is deliberately letting out news.
Right. Because he wants news to spread so that Rand will come to confront them.
He thinks that threatening the people will cause Rand to show up. Instead, he gets Perrin instead.
And it's a trap, memes.
Yeah. It's a trap.
What he's getting at, Fail said, closing up beside them, is that there must be a reason.
Which, again, is that I think even Perrin falls right onto it, which is it's a trap. She even says it right there. Or it's a lure.
Yeah.
Well, what's the lure for? Bait.
If trollocs harrying the two rivers were bait for a trap, it had to be a trap for Rand, and the Aes Sedai had to know it. And he has that thought after Perrin says, well, these could be reasons that this isn't happening, but he doesn't buy any of them, and I don't think she does either.
No, it's definitely a trap for Rand. It's good enough for Perrin. Fane is totally willing to take Perrin out. He's just really bad at it. I would say Fane has the worst luck. Tell you what.
Well, yeah, he's also terrible at making allies and working with people. So there's that.
Here's an interesting question. How much does Perrin know about Slayer, his role in the Two Rivers, the fact that he's there to hunt down Fane, and what does she know about Fane and his presence there?
That is very hard to say, but something I kind of touched on my notes, but I sort of breezed by just a second ago, is that, okay, so Perrin's offering reasons why these things might be happening in the way that they are as the group is having a conversation about it. And, of course, Perrin sees to the heart of it. And like I said, I don't believe that Perrin believes what she's saying. She's just suggesting these different possibilities. And that made me wonder if this might be an example of how Perrin has to play both sides. She can't do anything that will hurt the shadow openly.
Well, she really can, because there's that weird, you have to obey and you have to await the return. But you can certainly kill dark friends and kill trollocs and do anything like that. You can kill other dark friends as long as you have a good reason.
I don't remember what the
three oaths are.
Black Aja oaths, yeah.
They shall obey all commands given by those placed above me in the service to the Great Lord. I shall prepare for the day of the Great Lord's return. I shall hold close the secrets of the Black Aja until the hour of my death. You have to obey orders from anyone who's placed above you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to prepare for the last battle, and you have to not tell anybody. But, that only means you have to obey people above you, and there's no problem with killing folks. So, and I think a lot of what Perrin does is...
Well, not with killing folks, but, directly helping Perrin is what I was suggesting, but...
Yeah, a lot of Black Aja, or a lot of Black friends, interpret preparing for the Dark One's return in different ways, right? There's one, I think Olivia believes that the best way to prepare for the Dark One's return is absolutely make sure that Rand al'Thor survives to fight the last battle, because the Dark One, he needs to be there for the Dark One to defeat. So like her whole thing is like she supports Rand in every way possible and helps him out a lot because she's evil. It's really interesting. Is that Elsa or is that
I think you said Olivia?
The dark friend who helps him die? Elsa. So yeah, I mean, but all I'm saying is like you can as a dark friend have your very different interpretations of preparing, and the dark one certainly encourages them to kill each other and for competition. He wants the strongest to survive, and so I think that Varen can, just like getting around the oaths of lying that most of the sisters do. I think she can justify a lot of her actions in her own mind as being for the dark one, even though they're actually
not. But your question was about Slayer, and my instinct is to doubt that Varen knows anything about Slayer.
Yeah.
But, that doesn't mean that something didn't happen off screen where somehow she was made aware of the plans that involve Slayer, but those seem like those are Ishmael's plans. It seems unlikely that Varen would be invited into that. Not that it's impossible, like I said.
I'm mixing up Elsa and Olivia. Olivia is the one is supposed to help Rand die. Elsa is the one who thinks he has to make it to the last battle, and she's black. Okay.
Next thing I have after the conversation about trollocs is getting to the Elsene farm. The small party arrives at the Elsene farm after all that riding and chatting about trollocs and things and war and whatever.
We get a little bit of that relationship between Bane and Giad and Gaul, more Aiel. Do they love each other or do they want to kill each other? It's complicated. Both, I think.
I mean, I think the teasing each other it's definitely a Aiel flirting, even though it's kind of aggressively teasing each other about, slitting each other's throats in the night. To the Aiel, that's just joking.
Right. Good night, sleep well. I may kill you in the morning.
They arrive at the Elsene farm. Perrin sees the boys up on the roof, and he's not exactly sure what's going on there for a moment. And Tam explains to Perrin why there are so many people there and what's going on. And essentially, Jack took in his cousin Wit's people, which means these farmsteads are many times a multi-generational family, so grandmas all the way down to little babies. But also we see Perrin go through some of these farmsteads that are a cluster of 5 houses, and they have this vast tract of land that many of these large family units are taken care of together.
Well, it's like everyone takes care of the farm behind their house, and then all the houses face each other.
Right.
So you have a little community and stuff. It's the Althor farm was very odd in that it was just Tam and his father and his son. I mean, Rand and his father
all alone out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Very weird. It's like they have this big old plot of land to take care of, and they just did it by themselves.
From Perrin's perspective, every generation was represented. So this is Jack Elsene, his cousin Wit, and then one of their neighbors, the Lewins. Their farm was attacked, and they managed to. The Whitecloaks showed up at the right moment and managed to beat the attack back, but after that, they decided to all band together.
I think, so he says that Lord Luke was at the farm just before the attack.
Mm-hmm. Morgana says, how providential, I just thought, since Varen hears that.
I think Lord Luke was there setting up the attack. He was scouting out, and then he suggested a few things so he could look like the good guy. Hold on.
I feel like we should take a moment to talk about the separate factions here. So we have the Two Rivers people, who I don't think we really need to talk about. Their motivation is obviously to survive and plant next year's crops, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the Whitecloaks, Fane, and Slayer. None of whom seem to be truly working together, but they're playing off of each other. And
as far as I can tell, Slayer's motivation is to hunt down and kill Fane.
Yes.
That's why he is in the Two Rivers. He's not there to really harass the people.
But
he doesn't really care about them.
Fane is allied with the Whitecloaks, so it's not so easy. You can't just charge in there and shoot the guy, if that would even work.
Right. And he has his own little sort of subset of dark friends within the Whitecloaks. So there's the Whitecloaks that are sort of have to obey his orders under Bornhold. And then there's the Whitecloaks that he's corrupted to be dark friends.
Yes.
And they're in a separate camp.
And those are like his private guards. I almost look at it like it's a camp inside of a camp.
And at some point, he starts bringing in stealing trollocs and fades from Slayer, which we saw in the end of the last chapter. So Fane has basically taken these two groups, which are the Dark Friends and the Whitecloaks, the Trollocs and the Whitecloaks, and stolen from both of them and created a third force just for himself.
And now, okay, so Slayer is there to kill Fane. Is he the one bringing in the Trollocs with the intent to, stir up? Who's bringing in the Trollocs?
I think it's mostly Slayer.
I agree with you, Grebo. Slayer, it wouldn't seem to me like Slayer would need Trollocs to hunt Fane, but to use them as a distraction, for instance, or to...
I mean, he could be trying to do both. He may be trying to draw Rand with the Trollocs as well as take down Fane, who's just like an inconvenience, sort of like he's trying to swat the fly and bring in Rand.
We do at least know from, I think at the end of the last chapter, we had a perspective from Fane where we know that he's working with Trollocs and myrddraal to attack Bornhold. He's trying to assassinate Bornhold subtly, and I use that term loosely.
Yeah.
Bornhold figures it out, but he just can't prove it.
It's hard to prove that someone's controlling Trollocs.
Yeah, and we see a scene where Fane is talking to a myrddraal directly. And I think that is partly to harry the people of the Two Rivers, of all the Two Rivers communities, to draw Rand's attention, and partly to become more powerful. He needs Bornhold out of the way. Because if Fane were to just kill Bornhold himself, the Whitecloaks wouldn't follow his orders, I don't think. Or they are not fond of this guy.
We went through a bunch of stuff there really quick, because it's kind of, I don't want to say slow, but it almost feels a little bit like a high school reunion. Where he's like going back and he's like seeing this old girl who used to be hot and she's gained a bunch of weight and she's got her baby and her, new husband who doesn't like to dance. And he's like,
oh yeah.
Oh, gee, I guess she really settled down.
No, I mean, I wasn't even talking about the chapter there. I was just talking about the motivations of the various factions in the area right now. They arrived at the Elsene farm and I started talking about, Tam explains to us that Jack Elsene took in first his cousin and then a neighbor and his family. So 3 large family groups are now all staying under this one roof. So many so that Perrin mentions that there's not enough chairs in the house. Like some people just eat standing up. Granted, half a dozen extra people just showed up. But I would think that 30, 40, 50, maybe even more people are all staying in this one little group of buildings.
It's how you get a bigger village. As you get a bunch of people together, you have to build up bigger buildings, bigger mansions.
I enjoyed, as I always do, Grandma Elsene, Estelle Elsene, bent-backed, but using her stick to thump people out of her way more than walk with. Down to a swaddled infant in the arms of a more than stout young woman with a bright smile.
She actually pokes him when she first sees him because she sees the yellow eyes and thinks he's a ghost, and she's like takes her stick and just pokes him.
It's just
and when he goes, hey, she goes, runs away. Little old lady
I just
away.
felt like that's such a grandma thing to do. It's like walking up to a little kid and you just start cleaning their ears, and they're like, no, and nobody cares what that kid thinks. They're all children to her, I just like the good grandma energy there. There's a little scene where Will smiles at Fail and Perrin puts his arm around her and he's like, "What's up, Will?"
and fondles his axe. Hi, Will. Would you like to keep talking to my girlfriend, Will? This is my girlfriend, Will.
Will's eyes slid away from his and bounced off the axe. Doing fine. Later.
No point in letting Fael know that he's jealous. Not that he was.
She calls him out later.
Totally.
She's like, "You think I like that pretty boy? He's not anything like you."
And then that explains a lot of her reaction later when Lord Luke walks in, as she also flirts with him a little bit because she got a little bit of reaction out of him on Will. Or is that just her excuse?
No. I mean, when she's calling him out for getting jealous about Will smiling at her, she apologizes for... I mean, you could be right, but she apologizes for, like, that happened. And so I smiled at Lord Luke because everybody was fawning, and because I just wanted to make you a little jealous, too. Interest check.
I also noticed here, Fail takes a hold of Perrin's beard. And I was like, oh, that's why she wanted him to grow it out. A handhold.
She does like it. Lots of ladies like beards.
She grabs him by the beard and, like, shakes his head and is like, Perrin, what are you doing?
Perrin. And generally, as the party arrives, there's a bunch of excitement because Two Rivers folks, even these days, are like, wow, outsiders. Amazing. Look at their fine clothes and whatever.
Right.
Excitement over Verin and Tomas and Fail.
And Fail even looks like a lady. My God.
Who everyone believes is a lady except for Perrin, which is...
Right. He's like, I don't know.
The only one that's wrong. I also noticed that as some of the Two Rivers folks are speculating in the background, they're like, Tomas must be he's a lord or a hired sword or, you know. And one little boy is like, he's like a warder from the stories, and everybody laughs at him.
Don't they do the same thing in the Eye of the World for Lan? Isn't there one boy who's like, what if he's a warder? And everybody's like, ha, 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 ha. No,
Get out of here with
way.
that silliness.
Yeah. No, I think that happens twice. I think that's totally a reflection of Eye of the World.
I like that. Yeah, and of course, again, the little boy's the only one who's correct.
A little child shall lead them.
Mistress Mathwin, Lady Fail, Jack said, bowing awkwardly to each.
Notice he's got a clock and some silver goblets, so I'm rich. I mean, that's why all the people came to him. He's the rich one of the family.
He's doing well. And, you know, I skimmed past this, but, well, he does have probably the collected resources of 3 families, but the clock he would have had already, obviously. As Perrin arrives, we get a short description of the farm that I kind of moved over, but 3 tall barns, 5 tabac curing sheds, and a stone-walled, like, cote, which is a word I didn't know, but it's essentially this herd of sheep, and it said, so this stone-walled enclosure that holds the sheep in, Perrin notes, is as wide as some pastures on other farms. So there's a ton of livestock here, and there's pigs, goats, cattle, chickens wandering everywhere, geese on a pond. So this is like, these people could live for a long time just on what is there.
Well, they brought all their animals together.
Yeah, and 3 probably fairly prosperous families. And I can't imagine they built any new buildings, so Jack was already doing well, but this is a big complex.
What do you think happened to Tam's sheep? Because we know him and Abel took them away. I'm guessing they're not really taking care of them. Do you think they dropped them off at an existing farm?
Maybe they're in this...
Could be in this
enclosure
herd.
Right now. We know where Tam and Abel are friends with Jack Alcine. Good chance that, you know, said, here, if you take care of them, you know, we'll split up the profits with you later.
Verin does her little, I'm just looking for stories, BS.
Yeah, same as Moraine. Oh, I'm just looking for stories because stories interest me.
So what I'm learning is that if you're in some random ass backwards village and some lady shows up looking for stories, she's probably Aes Sedai.
Yeah, Bambi, that's a good point. It isn't a lie. She is looking for stories. Stories that are happening now, not stories that happened. Probably. Although, she does want to know everything. Which was Moraine's cover for trying to figure out who was born where and when. It's like, oh, genealogical research.
And was anyone not born in the Two Rivers? Anyone? That tall redhead over there that doesn't look like the rest of you? Anyone?
I don't believe it.
Oh, his mother was an outsider. Mm-hmm.
She must have been tall and red-haired.
I mean, and we know, like, Tam is so stout, and he's described as, like, a tree stump. And Rand is, like, this tall, relatively skinny, lithe dude.
Yeah. I always kind of imagine they weigh the same, but Rand's, like, half a foot taller or more.
We're, like, 2 feet taller. I can't imagine you could look at the two of them and be like, yeah, that's his dad. Like, I can't imagine you'd say that. Like, they just have nothing in common.
There is, you know, it's kind of plausible deniability, or, you know, like, well, his mother's an outsider, and she was a tall redhead, so that's where he gets it from.
Right. So
And everybody's like, oh, well, okay.
He takes after his mother.
Yeah.
Still.
No, I know. Even in the beginning, we've been speculating this whole time that Nynaeve, even in the very beginning, was like, oh, boy. He's not either of theirs, is he?
We went through it. Everyone outside of the Two Rivers was like, so, but why is that Aielman dressed up as a regular guy?
Boy, if you didn't have that accent, I'd think you were an Aielman.
If you weren't wearing that sword, I think you were an Aielman. Although you kind of look like Tigraine. Just saying. Randomly. Where was Carrie from? Wasn't she Kyrian? No. Because she was definitely an outsider. But what, was she Andorran? She was Andorran? Even though...
A merchant's daughter from Camelin.
So, yeah, I mean, Carrie could have looked an awful lot like Tigraine. They're both redheads from...
She lived in Ilion, and she did have red hair and gray eyes. But, of course, Tigraine, which I think we once agreed is Tigraine, but I hate that. Tigraine Mantier.
Tigraine is what I make when I add hot water to grains when I'm making beer. It's Tigraine.
That's when you pour the water too fast and it gets all the tea gets into your water and you have to strain it again.
Totally.
I was hoping to get a rough physical description really quick. She could have been red-haired, but I mean his real father definitely was.
I think Tigraine had the Andorran strawberry blonde. Still making sounds.
Anyway, drive us forward a bit, and we see we're almost at the end. Basically a conversation about Perrin, where Master Elsene, Jack, sighed and shifted his attention. Perrin, most of us have met you at one time or another, down to Emonds Field. We know you, after a fashion. At least, we knew you before you ran off last year. We've heard some troubling things, but I suppose Tam and Abell wouldn't be with you if those were true. And so basically there's a moment here that I feel is pretty important where Perrin has to kind of address this to the people because they're like, listen, we want to believe you, and you're with Tam and Abell, so you're in good company, but we've heard some scary things about you, and they're out there hunting for you. Like, what's going on here? You know?
Yeah. The Whitecloaks are saying you're a dark friend. Your eyes are yellow. Like, no one says that, but like, your eyes are yellow. That's different. And you left with Aes Sedai.
And Perrin tells them the truth. In short, he tells them, listen, I was out with some friends, and they didn't take a liking to one of my friends, who was a wolf.
Right.
And they killed him, and then they were coming for me, and there was no way out of it but for me to defend myself, and I killed a couple of Whitecloaks, and now they want me dead.
Because they don't need much to think you're bad. I kept noticing Aidine's comments.
She's the kind of, seems like a gossipy farm wife who...
I didn't say I believed it, just that I heard it. There are questions to be asked. People are saying, okay?
Yeah, I mean...
I've been hearing. Like, it's that vague political... I'm not saying it, but I've been hearing other people say it. It's just, it's very Trumpian. Like, it's so very Trumpian.
Some people try to shout her down and say, oh, well, if you believe what they say, then, you'll believe anything or whatever. But it is a legitimate question. Like, listen, there are these rumors going around, and you've been gone for a year, and I feel it is, and once Perrin addresses it, because even Master Elsene at one point says, I think we do have a right to hear why the Whitecloaks are saying the things that they are. And why are they accusing you, Matt, and Rand of all being dark friends? Seems wild. And he explains it to them.
Well, and don't forget, a big portion of why the Whitecloaks are accusing all three is because at Fane's insistence.
Right.
The Whitecloaks themselves only really care about Perrin, and that's just like Bornhold and Bayar. And Bayar, I think, mostly cares because of Grendel. So, there's that whole, like, really dark friends and Forsaken are the ones who are influenced, who are after these boys.
The Children of the Light, Varen said, are very good at one thing, making people who have been neighbors all their lives suspicious of each other.
Which is very true, and it's good that the Two Rivers doesn't really let them do that well after Perrin takes over.
Yeah. And I feel like you can see the beginnings of like the fractures that could have happened. But Perrin shows up and binds
if Perrin
them
hadn't
together.
showed up at that point, there could have been real, Adine could have been leading one fraction, which is the pearl clutching. What about the children? And then like other people wanting to do other things and everyone staying split and all being very easy pickings for trollocs and whitecloaks.
All the farm folk looked at her, some nodding after a moment. They have a man with them, I hear, Perrin said. Padden Fane, the peddler. I've heard, Jack said. I hear he calls himself by some other name nowadays. Perrin nodded. Ordeith. But Fane or Ordeith, he is a dark friend. He admitted as much. Admitted to bringing trollocs on winter night last year. And he rides with the Whitecloaks. That's very easy for you to claim, Adine Lewin said sharply. You can name anybody a dark friend. So who do you believe? Tomas said. Those who came a few weeks ago, arrested people you know, and burned their farms, or a man who grew up right here? I'm no dark friend, Master Elsene, Perrin said. But if you want me to go, I will. No, Elisa said quickly, shooting her husband a meaningful glance, and Adine a freezing one that made her swallow what she had been about to say. No, you are welcome to stay here as long as you like. Jack hesitated, then nodded in agreement. She came over and looked down at Perrin, resting her hands on his shoulders. You have our sympathy, she said softly. Your father was a good man. Your mother was my friend, and a fine woman. I know she'd want you to stay with us, Perrin. The children seldom come this way, and if they do, the boys on the roof will give us plenty of warning to get you into the attic. You will be safe here. She meant it. She actually meant it. And when Perrin looked at Master Elsene, he nodded again. Thank you, Perrin said, his throat tight. But I have things to do, things I have to take care of. She sighed, patting him gently. Of course. Just be sure those things don't get you hurt. Well, at least I can send you off with a full belly. There were not enough tables in the house to seat everyone for the midday meal, so bowls of lamb stew were handed out with chunks of crusty bread and admonitions not to drip, and everyone ate where they sat or stood. Before they were done eating, a lanky boy with his wrist sticking out of his sleeves, and a bow taller than he was, came bounding in. Perrin thought he was Win Lewin, but he could not be sure. Boys grew fast at that age. It's Lord Luke, the skinny boy exclaimed excitedly. Lord Luke is coming. Oh, good.
Boy. Lord Luke, Slayer. Well, Luke specifically being the uncle of Rand, brother to Tigraine. Well, I didn't have much to say about the readout other than, Perrin was sort of feeling down that no one was really offering a place of refuge to Matt or to Tam or Abel. I was going to say Matt's dad or Rand's dad.
Yeah.
And here the woman offers him a place to stay, and that makes him feel
Choked up.
and good.
Yeah.
Aww.
It is.
It's a feedback loop. The more we talk about the con, the more people get excited about it, and the more things start happening, and the more people who want to come, and then it's just this feedback loop, and it seems to be growing a little bit.
And last year was so fun. I mean, this year is going to be a lot more, for lack of a better term, like legit, but we just rented a big Airbnb where probably like a dozen people stayed. Some people have family in town, and Seth and I obviously already live here.
Right.
And it was just a really cool group. Like, a lot of the mods from our Discord forum came, and some people that we didn't know.
Well, I mean, that's honestly how they became mods.
Because
a lot of those people, a lot of our mods we've either met at SpoilerCon or at JordanCon.
Yeah.
And that's part of why we trust them to be mods, because, we've touched them. They're not fake internet people, they're real people. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a group of Wheel of Time nerds who have a bunch of other really awesome interests,
Yeah.
And, you know what? I think we discovered the phenomenon at JordanCon, and then it came over to SpoilerCon, which is when you get a bunch of Wheel of Time nerds in the same room, they're instant friends.
It was very easy.
It was so easy.
We, ordered a bunch of pizzas and drank beer and played Dungeons and Dragons, and there were other events. There was like the hike and the coffee tour, and we did a bunch of stuff. But really, probably those are just things to do while you're hanging out with people. It's the distracting icebreakers.
Right. I brought the dog. Everyone got to play with Timber at the dinner. We did a live show. That was an awesome show. You probably can hear it. Hopefully, we're going to work on sound quality this year.
Brian says, hike? That sounds like hard work. Another cool thing that I liked about this, everything is optional.
Yeah.
You can show up and do whatever you want.
Do whatever the hell you want. Some people came to the hike and chilled at the trailhead. And that was fine.
And everybody wants to meet Timber, the dog you occasionally hear in the background here.
He's definitely way more popular than either me or Patrick.
Yeah.
And he's probably much more happy to shake your hand.
Should we put a picture of his face up on the website? The podcasters.
Really? Oh, I can't believe how I missed that. I've got the perfect one, too. The one with him in front of the microphone.
Timber and his assistants. All the auction and stuff, that money just goes to making the con happen. We don't actually make anything off this.
No, I don't. Our goal is not to make money off of this.
No.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If I could figure out a way that I could make a bunch of money off of it, I would totally scam you guys. But that's not. This is. Right. I'm not supposed to say those things out loud, right?
People are already bidding on taking Timber to the park. Seth's Instagram is like 90% pictures of Timber.
He's just a dog, guys. I mean, he's the best dog. Don't get me wrong. Although sometimes I do call him the worst dog. Usually when I throw a ball and he looks at me like, what do you expect me to do? Go get that? I'm like, you're the worst dog.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?